She was sworn in as the Oklahoma's 15th Lieutenant Governor in 2007. It gives her the rare distinction of being involved in public service in all three branches of state government. She was elected to the Oklahoma House of Representatives in 1994 from District 50, which is Stevens, Comanche, and Cotton counties, and served for 12 years. Her last term, she earned the position of Democratic House Leader, becoming the first woman to lead a caucus in the Oklahoma legislature. She won statewide election as Lieutenant Governor in November 2006, becoming the first Democratic woman to attain that position. She's received numerous awards during her career in public service, and I am so pleased that she's here today. Please join me in welcoming Lieutenant Governor Jari Askins.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate that. It is, when the invitation came in to visit with you all during your conference, I was really happy that the first invitation that I got was for the first thing in the day. And I know that that's always hard when you all are in the middle of your conference and have had a good time networking, maybe meeting new friends, spending time visiting with long-time friends, and so people straggle in. But I think that's why we all spend a little time talking a lot, because we know people are still coming in, and we, gosh, hate for them to miss anything we say. I was trying to figure out how many years I have been coming to this conference, and I can't remember not coming, or at least not since I've been state representative. And even in my home area in Duncan, Oklahoma, I can remember when I was on the bench and we were beginning to try to establish programs in Stevens County and in the southwest Oklahoma part of the state. Pretty much all that existed was whatever was in one. And we knew that we needed to have more services closer to more victims so that they didn't have to travel. Most of the time they don't want to have to go very far away from home anyway, or very far away from wherever they have found a safe place to be. The fear of travel, the more they're away from that safe place, for a while, still is at risk. Victims of domestic violence and sexual assault need that comfort zone, and so the more we can do to help create that, the better services we provide to our victims. And a lot of you know that my background is such that, unfortunately or fortunately, I've had the opportunity to see what happens in the areas of domestic violence and sexual assault and stalking. All of that so often ties together. I've seen it from so many different professions, so many different perspectives, whether as a judge or whether on the parole board, certainly as a legislator, and still as Lieutenant Governor. I have felt it was important because of my understanding of what you all try to do and my desire to try to help. I have thought it was important to continue to be an advocate on your behalf. I continue to be surprised at how difficult it is to get some legislators to understand changes in laws that need to be made to make a greater emphasis and a greater impact on those who commit crimes of domestic violence. They don't seem to have quite as much trouble wanting to make sure that punishment is appropriate on sexual assault crimes. But somehow we have struggled to be able to convince that stalking, domestic violence, that those kinds of crimes deserve punishment that's appropriate as well. And I may have even told you, the biggest step that we made in the 12 years that I was a member of the House of Representatives actually came when one of the leaders of the House became a victim of a stalker. Big old guy. The kind of guy that used to take out his big knife and cut calluses off his hands. And when people thought when he became the victim of a stalker, then all of a sudden stalking laws became important to him. And he became an advocate. Unfortunately, not all victims are big bruiser cowboy guys. a lot of them don't have the ability to apparently try to defend themselves, take care of themselves. And so it becomes a lot more difficult, and you have to become those voices to talk to legislators and help them begin to understand why it's important that we pay attention, why it's important that we put the tools in place for investigators and law enforcement and to be able to apprehend these perpetrators, why it's important for us to be able to put the resources in place to be able to help the victims and the providers of services. So I can tell you that as I continue to try to be in a position to affect policy in this state, I want you to know that my goals will always have multiple prongs, because I know that we need to be strong and sure and certain on the criminal justice side of taking care of those who, of punishing those who commit these crimes, of the offenders. I know that we made great strides a number of years ago in a lot of times through the work of Jim Cox when he was director of the Chiefs of Police Association. But in trying to get local law enforcement to understand that domestic violence and stalking is not always just a family issue, it's a community issue, it's a state issue, it's a criminal issue. And that we cannot let ourselves get complacent on the need for law enforcement to continue to have that training, and especially at the local police level, where more likely police officers or law enforcement, sheriff's deputies are likely to know both parties. And sometimes that becomes a resistance in wanting to step in and do anything. So we must continue to make sure that we have training. And I want you to know that regardless of where I am, when I have an opportunity to be an advocate on your behalf, it will not just be about trying to get the legislature to increase penalties, but it will also be about trying to make the legislature understand it doesn't do any good to put the offender away if we don't put resources in the community to help rehabilitate the victims. That's what you do. That's what most of you are here for. That's what your passion is as you try to help others who have become victimized. When we put those resources in your hands and put them to good use, then I know that we are not just helping rebuild lives, but we're also helping rebuild communities. We're helping rebuild families. We're helping rebuild a future, because there's nearly always a younger generation that's impacted by the victims you work with. And so when we can do something to show that there is a path out, there's an open door to walk through, that there's hope and a future on the other side, then we've made strides. And then Oklahoma hopefully can become a state that is known for its investment in its women, in its victims, and not a state that rates so poorly on so many women's health issues, women's safety issues. That's a goal of mine. I want to be involved long enough to see us turn that trend around. And we do it, we'll get there, but we'll do it because of you and the programs you work with, people who work with you to help provide services, and the efforts that are made to reach out. It's going to be hard for at least 2 more years. Financially, it's going to be tough, and I would not be intellectually honest with you if I didn't say that. It's going to be difficult. We've asked you to do a lot with less, and hopefully, we can at least maintain where you are right now and still try to improve what we do. But I'm afraid there aren't going to be new state dollars for a while. I'd rather say that and be surprised than stand up here and say, well, we're going to increase your funding, when I know that we start this next year with over $1 billion less revenue than we have right now. That's going to be hard. That's a reality. But you know what? When we have that kind of economic downturn, I know that these are the kinds of crimes that begin to rise. because people are frustrated in their jobs, they're frustrated if they've lost a job, and somebody goes home and takes it out on someone at home. We cannot stop providing services just because we may not have as much money as we'd like to have. So I look forward to listening to what your ideas are on how we can all do our jobs better, how we can reach out to help provide services, how we can figure out how to create new partnerships, how we can figure out how to engage a community to become more involved in helping provide resources as well to help you. Some communities do a great job, others need a little more educating. I hope while you're here that you'll talk with each other and see where those communities are that you can use as an example. And if there's anything at any time that I can ever do to help you in your community, to help you with your program, to help you with your legislator, to help you in any way at all, I hope that you will call on me. I hope you will know that I prefer to say, most of you know I have an open door, but I hope you know the door is not just open, that my mind is open, my heart is open, my ears are open for what you have to say, for what you have to recommend, and for what you can help us do to make Oklahoma a safer place for Oklahoma families, their children, and for those of you, I just think that you are angels in our communities. Thank you for choosing to do the work that you do. You don't do it because you're getting a great 401k. You do it because you can see the difference that you make in people's lives. Thank you for being on the ground level and making that happen. We couldn't be the state that we are. We couldn't be the compassionate people we are if it wasn't for your examples. And I appreciate you so much and look forward to the opportunity of working with you in the future. Thank you very much.